Hello and welcome to Carved in Stone. I'm your host, Shawn Chabam, and today I'll be carving out my Mount Rushmore of athletes who divorced Philadelphia. One-time staples and in many cases fan favorites who didn't exactly leave the city of brotherly love on the best of terms. As you may have guessed, the reason for this episode today is because this coming Tuesday, June 2nd, the first reveal on this mountain, former Phillies outfielder Nick Castellanos will return to Citizens Bank Park for the first time since his ugly divorce from the Phils as a member of the San Diego Padres. The Phillies and Padres already met for a series in San Diego this year, just last week in fact, but this will be the first time Castellanos comes back to Philly to face 40,000 adversaries. Most people know by now that according to Castellanos, and I'm sure there's much more to the story, in 2025, he was upset that he was removed late in a game against the Miami Marlins by then manager Rob Thomson, and Casty then cracked a Presidente beer in the dugout. Thomson said Castellanos made an inappropriate comment and was subsequently benched the following game. Thomson never said what the comment was. As the season and following offseason went on, it became increasingly obvious that Castellanos would not be back with the Phillies. He constantly took pot shots at Thomson and hitting coach Kevin Long for not playing in the majors. Matt Miles and I addressed this in some more detail on episode 16.5, linked up top on YouTube. You can listen to Matt's thoughts on that there. I pretty much agree with everything he said about that. The team told Casty not to report to spring training earlier this year, which I thought was crazy. Even though I never saw him on the opening day roster, it diminished any trade value he may have had, and the team eventually released him, eating almost all of his $20 million salary. As I said on episode 16.5, for a team to take a $20 million bath to let a player go, it had to be so much worse than a dugout beer, and any comments must have been insanely personal, vulgar, and insulting. Having a beer is unprofessional, but hardly something to part with 20 mil over. Since becoming a member of the San Diego Padres, Castellanos has continued to take small jabs at Thomson and Long in interviews without mentioning their names, saying how great it is to play for a manager, Craig Stammen, who knows what it's like to play in the big leagues. Thomson, of course, was let go by the Phillies after a disastrous start to the season. Castellanos, at the time of this recording, is batting under 200, so I'm not so sure the grass is all that greener on the other side. If he would have had the foresight to see that Thomson would be fired early in the 2026 season, I do wonder if things would have played out differently. The Phillies' current manager is former big leaguer Don Mattingly. We'll never know for sure, but it's something I have thought about since Topper's firing. Castellanos was a good player for the Phillies, but he was a far cry from irreplaceable. I do think there will be some cheers when he steps onto the field at Citizens Bank Park wearing brown and gold, but I think any cheers will be drowned out by the booze. That's booze, B-O-O-S, not B-O-O-Z-E, Casty's favorite dugout beverage. By the way, folks, if you're a Philly sports fan, this list might be super obvious today. There will be one athlete today from each of the big four: Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, and 76ers. Even though I don't watch basketball, I don't live under a rock, so the Sixers are included instead of the Union, who I do pay attention to, but I am aware the Union are a distant number 5 in popularity. Let's move on to the Eagles. Who else? Terrell Owens. This is arguably the messiest athlete divorce in Philadelphia history, not just Eagles history. And it has to be up there as one of the messiest for any team and player ever. Although I think Antonio Brown leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers mid-game easily tops this one. Who could forget T.O. doing sit-ups in his driveway after being suspended and sent home by head coach Andy Reid in 2005? Owens was unhappy with his contract that he had just signed 1 year prior. The Eagles ended the 2004 season falling to the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 39. Owens was lights out in that game. But as he was trying to rally public support for his new contract, he accused quarterback Donovan McNabb of getting nervous and throwing up in the huddle during the game in Jacksonville, Florida. I should mention that in between off seasons, Owens hired the controversial agent Drew Rosenhaus, and Rosenhaus may have put a few thoughts in T.O.'s head. There was also a rumor that Owens got into a physical altercation with then Eagles defensive end Hugh Douglas, and that it did not end well for Douglas. McNabb and Owens were a dynamic duo, and it really was a shame that they couldn't coexist for longer. McNabb called Owens' comments a crime. Things were just really ugly. Owens never played for the Birds again after he was sent home in 2005. He did issue an apology for his behavior and filed a grievance against the team in an attempt to rejoin, but his suspension was upheld by an arbitrator. The Eagles had a horrible season, and eventually Owens was let go in the following offseason. I've always wondered if the Eagles had pulled off the win in Super Bowl 39, would public opinion on Owens getting that new contract be different? He was injured during the Super Bowl, and like I said, he had a great game. After one game during that 2004 season, Owens made some heads spin, as after a loss to the Dallas Cowboys, he was seen wearing a throwback Michael Irvin jersey. He signed with Dallas in the offseason following the 2005 season, as if Philadelphia needed another reason to hate him. I was at the first game that T.O. played at Lincoln Financial Field as a Cowboy, and I have to tell you, one of the loudest pops I have ever heard was when he dropped a perfectly thrown pass by Drew Bledsoe while Owens was wide open. That would have gone for an easy touchdown had he made the reception. Let's head over to the arena. Xfinity Mobile Arena, that is, formerly the Core State Center, formerly the First Union Center, formerly the Wachovia Center, and formerly the Wells Fargo Center. I think I got them all. We'll start with the Flyers. This player's career actually started in the Philadelphia Spectrum, and it's a guy whose number is now hanging in the rafters at Xfinity Mobile, Eric Lindros. Lindros, who was an unbelievable player, had a career marred by controversies and injuries. I'm only going to focus on the Big E's controversial time as a Flyer. There were plenty of controversies surrounding this man before he became a member of the Orange and Black as well. In the 1999-2000 season, his last as a Flyer, Lindros criticized team trainers for failing to diagnose a concussion, his fourth, at least that we're aware of. Flyers general manager at the time and former Flyer himself, Bobby Clark, stripped Lindros of the captaincy after the remarks, handing the C over to Eric Desjardins. Lindros sat out the remainder of the regular season and suffered another concussion while rehabilitating for a return to the lineup. He came back to play Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the New Jersey Devils and scored the Flyers' only goal in a 2-1 loss. Game 7 would turn out to be his last as a Flyer. One constant criticism of Lindros during his career was that he skated with his head down. Some believed he got so good so fast and was always so much bigger and faster than his opposition that he never learned to skate with his head up properly, and this became a huge issue when he got to the NHL and there were players as skilled and as big as he was. During that game, Devils defenseman Scott Stevens leveled Lindros while Lindros' head was down, and Lindros suffered yet another concussion, and the Flyers lost both the game and the series, the final score of this game 2-1. Lindros faced criticism for coming back too soon, and as big as a fan as I was of this guy, I was kind of irritated that he didn't wait to come back until the Stanley Cup Finals. Game 6, it seemed like the rest of the team stopped playing and expected him to do it all. They had been playing well previously despite his absence. I really think they could have beaten the Devils and possibly won the Cup if he waited to make his return until the finals. He became a restricted free agent that offseason. The Flyers still owned his rights, though, and he sat out the entire 2000-2001 season. The rules are a little confusing, so I'm not going to go through them. Clark made some really nasty comments about Eric and the Lindros family. It was a soap opera. I've mentioned this before. Check out The Case for 88 for more of the spicy information on the saga. I remember it being extremely messy, but upon watching the documentary, I realized it was so much worse than I even remembered. Clark at one point said he didn't care if he blocked Lindros from ever playing again. It was not handled well by anyone involved. But as I've said before, with 2.5 decades of hindsight, I can now admit that the Flyers were more at fault than Lindros was. That's not saying he holds no blame. Eventually, Lindros was traded to the New York Rangers, which I was stunned by. Trading him in division was insane. He scored 73 points in 72 games his first season with the Rangers, and he was a Flyer killer when he went to New York. As the years went on, tempers softened. Lindros and the organization, as well as Clark, finally made their peace. Lindros even played alongside Clark in an alumni game the weekend of the Winter Classic when the Flyers hosted the Rangers at Citizens Bank Park in 2012. Lindros's number 88 was retired by the Flyers on January 18, 2018. I, for one, will always remember the good times with Lindros. He was amazing in his prime. Before I get to the final athlete, in case I didn't make it clear at the start of the show, these athletes had to play for Philadelphia. It's not a matter of getting drafted and refusing to play or refusing to get drafted. So guys like Cutter Gauthier and JD Drew aren't included. That said, let's do some honorable mentions. Scott Rowland, former Philly, had a pretty messy departure from the team. He was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals in 2002 after a breakdown in contract negotiations, and Rowland publicly accused the Phillies of having a lack of commitment to winning. Another former Philly, Mitch Williams. Wild Thing, as he was known, was the Phillies' closer and a fan favorite until giving up a walk-off home run to Joe Carter in Game 6 of the 1993 World Series that clinched the title for Toronto. Williams quickly became a villain in the Philadelphia sports world, but it was forgiven. I was at Williams' return as a member of the Houston Astros in 1994, and he came out to a standing ovation at Veterans Stadium. Williams would eventually go on to a broadcasting career in Philly. The fact that he didn't try to make excuses, I think, served him well and helped him regain respect in the community. Of course, you will have some fans who will remain too fickle to ever get over it. I could drone on and on with honorable mentions like Curt Schilling and CJ Gardner squared for a while, but instead, let's wrap up this mountain. The 76ers will be last. As I said, I don't watch basketball, although I said on my mascot bobblehead episode that I was familiar with the NBA. I just misspoke and meant to say the NFL or NHL. But anyway, you can't help but hear things. It's Ben Simmons. This one was a slow burn that just kept getting worse and worse until it finally blew up. It all really came to a head during the 2021 playoffs against the Atlanta Hawks. Game 7, season on the line, and Simmons passes up a wide-open dunk late in the fourth quarter. I'm not even a basketball guy, and I remember seeing that clip everywhere. Instead of going up strong, he dishes it off, and the possession ends in a missed free throw. The Sixers lose the game, lose the series, and just like that, everything changed. After the game, head coach Doc Rivers was asked if Simmons could be a championship point guard, and Rivers basically said, I don't know. Joel Embiid had some comments too, that while not directly calling Simmons out by name, pretty clearly pointed to that moment as a turning point in the game. Whether fair or not, Simmons became the face of that collapse overnight. From there, it spiraled. Simmons wanted out of Philly and made it very clear. He stopped communicating with the team, skipped training camp, and reportedly turned down opportunities to meet with teammates who were trying to smooth things over. The Sixers started fining him for missing team activities, and we're talking serious money, almost $20 million. Then came the reports about mental health, which added another layer to the situation. The team, the player, the fans, nobody seemed to be on the same page about anything. It just felt like a complete standoff. The Sixers weren't going to trade him for pennies on the dollar, and Simmons wasn't going to suit up again in Philadelphia, so it dragged on and on. Every time you thought it might get resolved, it somehow got messier. Eventually, the Sixers traded Simmons to the Brooklyn Nets in a deal centered around James Harden. I even tuned in for a few minutes of the first game Simmons played with the Nets in Philadelphia just to hear the relentlessness of the booing crowd. Well, that's that. I hope you enjoyed I think most of these picks today were slam dunks, so I guess Ben Simmons would disagree with them. We will see what happens next week when Nick Castellanos makes his first return to the city. Like I said earlier, I could have added a few more honorable mentions, but these were the guys who came to mind immediately. To review my Mount Rushmore of athletes who divorced Philadelphia: Terrell Owens from the Eagles, Eric Lindros from the Flyers, Nick Castellanos from the Phillies, and Ben Simmons from the 76ers. Thank you as always for joining me. I will see you next time. Go Birds.